Hi, I'm Chuck Blau. I'm here with Joe Traynor, who is chairman of the Appraisal Foundation in Washington. Joe, what is the purpose of the Appraisal Foundation?
The Appraisal Foundation is authorized by Congress as a source of appraisal standards and appraiser qualifications for appraisers across the United States. So every appraiser who's licensed in any state or territory has to meet qualifications that are established by one of the Foundation's boards, and the other main arm is the Uniform Standards of Professional Appraisal Practice, which is developed every 2 years and which all appraisers must comply with.
And what are the working groups and what are their functions within the Appraisal Foundation?
We just mentioned a couple. The Appraisal Standards Board is a group that writes the standards. This is a two-year cycle. Right now, the 2012-2013 version of USPAP is being finalized and will be out within the next 60 days. And that'll be effective for the next 24 months. Once that's done, then the board will start right away on working on the next version. And the way they revise this, they get a lot of feedback and a lot of input throughout the year from various appraisers. Why do you do this? Why aren't you doing this? And all that feedback typically goes into deciding on what they're going to work on in the next version of USPAP and what's going to be revised and what's going to be retained.
And how can a regular appraiser participate in the Appraisal Foundation initiatives?
There's a few different ways that they can do that. The first way is all of the boards. We just talked about the Appraisal Standards Board, and let me talk about the other two boards real quickly, just to get their plug in there. The Appraiser Qualifications Board is the board that established qualifications for appraiser licensing categories, both for pre-licensing and for continuing education. Right now, they're in the middle of revising the criteria. There will be new criteria coming out on January 1st of 2015. Most likely this criteria, the most significant thing was it'll do away with the college degree alternative, and it will require for the first time a college degree for either a certified residential or a certified general license. The newest board we have is the Appraisal Practices Board. This board was developed a year and a half ago, and they're just getting ready to release their first work product, and they're looking right now at declining markets and how residential appraisers work in declining markets, and working on some other topics in that area. The reason that they were formed was there was no one body that seemed to be addressing the technical aspect. And organizations like NAIFA and some of the other organizations, while they reach out to a certain group of appraisers, we unfortunately have found that there's far too many appraisers who aren't a member of any association, and so they need a little bit, sometimes, guidance in unique situations. As far as getting involved, there's two ways to get involved. Each of the three boards releases their work product for public exposure. For instance, the version of USPAP that's getting ready to come out right now went through 4, maybe 5 exposure drafts. These are posted on the Foundation's website, and anybody can comment on those. Doesn't matter whether all the organizations routinely comment, as do the government agencies and things like that, but any individual appraiser can comment, and they will read the comments, and if they get enough comments to say the same thing, they will take a look at that. The other way, obviously, is to apply for membership on a board. And all 3 of the boards, in fact, all 4 of the boards, because the Board of Trustees is the other board that oversees the operations of the Foundation, all of our boards go through a nomination process every year. It's posted on the website. There's an application to be filled out, a screening process, and at the end of that whole process, typically, however many seats we typically will have 2 or 3 seats up at any of the given boards at any given time. They'll be selected. We work anywhere from as few as 25 applicants sometimes to as many as 150 applicants. So it just depends on kind of what's going on.
Where do the working groups meet, and can regular appraisers attend the meetings around the country?
The working groups work in the boards, I should say, work in 2 different ways. They do have public meetings. They have anywhere from 2 to 4 public meetings per year, and they try to hit what they call the 4 corners, which means they try to have one southwest, they try to have one northwest. I think in the last 12 months, for instance, they've had meetings in Indianapolis, they've been in Minneapolis, they've been in Las Vegas, they've been in San Francisco, in Florida. So as you can tell, they've kind of covered the country pretty well. They will have a work session for a day, day and a half, and then they'll have a public meeting. And at that point in time, they'll discuss whatever it is they're working on and invite public comment at that point in time. And so that's one way that they can people can get involved. The other way they work is they work by conference call quite a bit. These are all 3 very, very hard-working boards. The average board member on these boards works probably 25 to 35 hours a month.
Wow. Does the Appraisal Foundation interact with any of the state regulatory boards as well?
Yeah, there's some confusion in terms of who does what. As I said earlier, the Appraisal Foundation is responsible, or is authorized, I should say, by Congress to develop standards and qualifications for appraisers. Having said that, we have zero regulatory authority. We are not a regulatory agency. We are an educational foundation, as per our charter, to do those specific things. The Appraisal Subcommittee, or ASC, which is a federal agency, has responsibility of overseeing all the state agencies and making sure that they're complying with whatever the standards and the qualifications that the Appraisal Foundation comes up with. So in order to do that, they sit in our meetings and they also sit in on state board meetings. Then each of the states are charged with the individual authority as far as to implement the standards and the qualifications, and they're responsible for the licensing and the disciplining of appraisers in those jurisdictions.
Just a couple last questions. Now that you're sort of at the pinnacle of the appraisal profession, chairman of the Appraisal Foundation, I'm just kind of curious, how'd you get started in the appraisal business, just on a personal note?
Well, this is really kind of strange. I started off in the real estate business, as did a lot of appraisers, and at one point in time I realized that whenever I wrote a purchase agreement, the two people who got paid first were the people who ran the credit and the appraisers. This is a long time ago, as you might imagine. And since I didn't know anything about the credit business, I thought the appraisal business might be an opportunity. I looked into it. I actually had a good friend of mine who ran a firm in Indianapolis. I went and talked to him just to find out a little bit. By the time I walked out of his office, I was working for him, and that was almost 30 years ago. And I've never looked back, and I've enjoyed every minute of it.
I was getting to my last question, and I assume that not just yourself, but the other people in the Appraisal Foundation, you must have a great love for the profession to give back and travel, be away from your family.
I think that's very true. I've been involved in a lot of different things over the years, but as far as from an appraisal point of view, I've never been involved in an organization where you have such a wide diversity of experience and knowledge and background. I mean, some of these people, not myself, but some of these people are like the cream of the crop, and the level of conversation and the level of knowledge that you come across during your conversations and your meetings and things like that, really makes it so that you take a whole lot more back than you bring to it.
That's great. I really appreciate you spending a few minutes with us, and I look forward to talking to you in the future.
Well, and I would like to congratulate you on your 50th anniversary, and you have been with us since day one, and the Appraisal Foundation's always enjoyed our working relationship with you.
Great. Thank you very much.